Prepositions of place, in, on, and at are used to describe the location of something. Each preposition is used in different contexts based on the type of location. Here's how to use each one. Using in is used for 1. Enclosed spaces, to indicate something is inside a space with clear boundaries. Example, in a room, in a box, in a building. 2. Countries, cities, and large areas to describe being within a geographic region. Example, in France, in New York, in the park. 3. Bodies of water, to indicate being within the area of water. Example, in the river, in the ocean. 4. Public transport vehicles, for smaller, enclosed forms of transport. Example, in a car, in a taxi. Using on is used for 1. Surfaces, to indicate something is on top of a surface. Example, on the table, on the floor, on the wall. 2. Public transport, for larger open forms of transport. Example, on a bus, on a train, on a plane. 3. Communications and media, to indicate something is in a form of media or communication. Example, on the radio, on television, on the internet. 4. Technology, to indicate usage of a device. Example, on the phone, on the computer. Using at is used for 1. Specific points, to indicate a specific point or place. Example, at the door, at the corner, at the bus stop. 2. Events and places of activity, to indicate being present at an event or place where an activity happens. Example, at a concert, at a party, at school. 3. Addresses and locations, to describe a precise location. Example, at 123 Main Street, at home, at work. Where do you live? Where do you live? I live in New York City. I live in New York City. Where is your favorite place to relax? Where is your favorite place to relax? I relax at the beach. I relax at the beach. Where did you find your keys? Where did you find your keys? I found them on the table. I found them on the table. Where do you usually eat lunch? Where do you usually eat lunch? I eat lunch at the cafeteria. I eat lunch at the cafeteria. Where can I find a good bookstore? Where can I find a good bookstore? You can find one in the city center. You can find one in the city center. Where do you plan to go for vacation? Where do you plan to go for vacation? We plan to go camping in the mountains. We plan to go camping in the mountains. Where do you keep your passport? Where do you keep your passport? I keep it in the drawer. I keep it in the drawer. Where do you go for your morning jog? Where do you go for your morning jog? I go jogging in the park. I go jogging in the park. Where do you attend your yoga classes? Where do you attend your yoga classes? I attend them at the community center. I attend them at the community center. Where do you work? Where do you work? I work at the hospital. I work at the hospital. Where is your favorite restaurant? Where is your favorite restaurant? It's in the downtown area. It's in the downtown area. Where do you play tennis? Where do you play tennis? I play tennis at the club. I play tennis at the club. Where did you buy those shoes? Where did you buy those shoes? I bought them at the mall. I bought them at the mall. Where do you store your winter clothes? Where do you store your winter clothes? I store them in the closet. I store them in the closet. Where did you meet your best friend? Where did you meet your best friend? I met her at college. I met her at college. Where do you watch movies? Where do you watch movies? I watch them at the cinema. I watch them at the cinema. Where do you practice playing the piano? Where do you practice playing the piano? I practice at home. I practice at home. Where do you hang your paintings? Where do you hang your paintings? I hang them on the living room wall. I hang them on the living room wall. Where do you keep your car keys? Where do you keep your car keys? I keep them on the key rack. I keep them on the key rack. Where do you buy groceries? Where do you buy groceries? I buy them at the supermarket. I buy them at the supermarket. Where do you volunteer? Where do you volunteer? I volunteer at the shelter. I volunteer at the shelter. Where did you find that rare book? Where did you find that rare book? I found it at the antique store. I found it at the antique store. Where do you usually go for walks? Where do you usually go for walks? I go for walks in the park. I go for walks in the park. Where did you hide the presents? Where did you hide the presents? I hid them in the closet. I hid them in the closet. Where do you go for swimming lessons? Where do you go for swimming lessons? I go for lessons at the pool. I go for lessons at the pool. Where do you keep your gardening tools? Where do you keep your gardening tools? I keep them in the shed. I keep them in the shed. Where do you study for exams? Where do you study for exams? I study at the library. I study at the library. Where do you celebrate your birthday? Where do you celebrate your birthday? I celebrate it at home. I celebrate it at home. Where did you leave your umbrella? Where did you leave your umbrella? I left it at work. I left it at work. Where do you usually find good deals? Where do you usually find good deals? I find them at the flea market. I find them at the flea market. Where do you store your bike? Where do you store your bike? I store it in the garage. I store it in the garage. Where do you take dance lessons? Where do you take dance lessons? I take them at the dance studio. I take them at the dance studio. Where do you keep your important documents? Where do you keep your important documents? I keep them in the safe. I keep them in the safe. Where do you get your hair cut? Where do you get your hair cut? I get it cut at the salon. I get it cut at the salon. Where did you buy that beautiful dress? Where did you buy that beautiful dress? I bought it at the boutique. I bought it at the boutique. Where do you hang out with friends? Where do you hang out with friends? We hang out at the cafe. We hang out at the cafe. Where do you watch the sunset? Where do you watch the sunset? I watch it at the beach. I watch it at the beach. Where do you want to retire? Where do you want to retire? I want to retire in the countryside. I want to retire in the countryside.